Welcome to UCLA Newsweek. This week, a candid talk on race in the Obama administration with Frank Gilliam, Dean of the School of Public Affairs.
When it comes to race, it's always complicated.
The nation's first chair in Korean American Studies, Jerry Kang.
I think the fact that we have a Korean American Studies chair, the first of its kind, I think announces in some sense an arrival.
And in brief, hand and forearm transplants come to the West Coast. Neuroscientists systematically predict behavior, giant art that shushes passersby, and a visit from the Spanish soccer club Real Madrid. Dean of UCLA School of Public Affairs, Frank Gilliam, weighs in on race, the Shirley Sherrod controversy, and how the Obama administration is responding.
Well, I think we have this real sort of schizophrenia when it comes to race. On the one hand, I think the general sense among the broader American public is that they just prefer not to talk about it. It makes people uncomfortable. But on the other hand, it is so close to the surface that it doesn't take much to prime it or evoke racial sentiments. So, on the one hand, you have this sort of a conscious attempt to submerge it, and on the other hand, it's the old "don't think about elephants." It's it's right there, and then when the elephant shows up, everybody all of a sudden lets loose. And I think that the knee-jerk reaction all the way around on the Sherrod issue is sort of evidence of that. I think you have to put the administration's response into context. And so as a political scientist, I understand why they did what they did. They had the financial bill ready on the floor for a vote. If they could get it passed, it'd be good news for the administration. The last thing they wanted was a racial controversy. I think he again has to show sort of moral leadership and has to say, look, all of you, you're missing the boat here. You're missing the point. In fact, you're taking us backwards, not forwards. The way forward is to understand what it is we can do to work together to make us all better off. What creates opportunity for all of us.
Law professor Jerry Kang comments on the significance of being named the Korea Times Hankook Ilbo Chair in Korean American Studies.
Well, I think it's a great honor to be appointed to the inaugural chair. I think the fact that we have a Korean American Studies chair, the first of its kind, I think announces in some sense an arrival of the Korean American community. It emphasizes that, that issues and questions and concerns about Korean Americans are important. They're worthy of study. Korean Americans are a great example of thinking about what it means to live in a truly multiracial and multicultural society. There are transnational flows of capital and culture and ideas. I think is an interesting sort of resource to tap, not only to understand academically, but to understand economically, right? And as a form of, as sort of almost a dynamic engine that changes what's going on even in California.
Europe's most successful soccer club, Real Madrid, continued its preseason tour with practices at UCLA. The public gathered to catch a glimpse of star players, including #1 ranked Cristian Ronaldo. And now, a look at some other stories coming out of UCLA. The UCLA health system has launched its new hand transplantation program, the first of its kind on the West Coast and only the 4th such center in the United States. The program will allow those who have suffered the traumatic loss of a hand or forearm to regain function. Qualified candidates are now being sought for a clinical study of the procedure. In a study with implications for the advertising industry and public health organizations, UCLA neuroscientists have shown they can use brain scans to predict whether people will use sunscreen during a 1-week period even better than the people themselves can. Design and media arts professor Cristian Moeller recently gave the term book art a whole new meaning when he used some 4,000 books to create a giant pixelated sculpture of a woman shushing for a public library in the Bay Area. Coming up, astronomy professors Eric Becklin and Mark Morris are working with NASA to develop the Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, or SOFIA, the world's largest airborne observatory. Once it begins operations, SOFIA's 100-inch diameter reflecting telescope will provide astronomers with access to the visible, infrared, and sub-millimeter spectrum, and will triple image quality from deep space. Join us again next week for UCLA News Week.